Gaebe and Triangler were an extraordinary team.
The two men were always doing something at the school.
Well, I think the real story here is the foresight that my dad had to see the need for a university like Johnson & Wales.
Mo Gaebe had more energy than any man I'd ever met.
He knew and believed in what he was doing and just allowed everybody to get on his coattails and ride with him.
Their idea was that this would be a school that really knew no bounds.
When we first met Eddie and Vilma, we were just immediately close friends. And of course, I think I've always said with Mo's, any phone call I get from him might be a surprise. It certainly was a sense of adventure. But when you're doing it with people you like and you respect and you trust, there isn't any fear involved. It's more adventure than anything.
Everything we did was risky and scary. We bought Johnson & Wales for $25,000. Audrey's mother and Vilma's mother put up $12,500 each. So there was a big risk in those days, but you look at it today, it wasn't a risk at all, you know. It was been foolish not to have done that.
I think Eddie, who was a Brown graduate, brought Dad out here because he saw that Dad was a non-stop worker. He never clocked in and he never clocked out. And I think Eddie saw that as an asset to have as a partner who would work that hard. Dad, on the other hand, whole goal in life was to play professional baseball. And he wanted to play for the Cardinals. And that was his dream in life. But he got drafted by the Cardinals in 1942, but he also got drafted into the military, and he didn't really have a choice. By the time he got out of the military, he had 2 kids, so he just couldn't pursue that dream. And that's when Eddie was able to get him out here.
It was just one of those things. This was a good idea at the time, and didn't know what we were going to do. I didn't never know what I'd do in education, but I can sell it pretty good. I was a pretty good teacher, and I enjoyed doing it.
In 1947 was the end of the war, of course, when the United States emerged as a superpower. And I think that rubbed off on all of us. We thought that we could do anything we wanted to do. And people like Morris Gaebe and Ed Triangelo, they had been through a war, they had seen so many different things, they had a lot of ambition. The GI Bill, of course, made all the difference in the world. It brought a different kind of student in. And Morris Gaebe and Ed Triangelo, they made it obvious to so many of these veterans coming back that you could do it. You know, you could, well, I have to work full time. Well, okay, we'll have night courses. Well, I have to work nights. Well, okay, we'll have, weekend courses or whatever it would be. And they tailored the school really for the needs of the students.
Gaebe and Triangler were an extraordinary team. Mo Gaebe in particular was an incredible entrepreneur. And he created so many unique things at Johnson & Wales. And when I talk about the new Johnson & Wales, the trimester system, the 4-day week, the upside-down curriculum, those are all Mo Gaebe creations. When Mo Gaebe liked something, he found a reason to make it happen.
There was one thing that was most outstanding about Dr. Gaebe. Every week or 2, he would go to Washington, D.C., and he would look up the numbers in the labor market that this country would need for the future. And he would come back to the university and start programs for those in that category. He was a genius. Genius.
And so forth. And then we made door-to-door solicitations. If I knew that you lived in such and such a house and you were a high school senior, I would go to the house and I'd say, "Hi, I'm from Johnson & Wales University, and I'd like to talk to you about coming to our school." And I remember one time in Pawtucket, I knocked on the door and I said that, and the young lady came to the door. I said that, and she said, "Mom, there's a guy here went to talk to me about going to Johnson & Wales. And she said, let him come in. And when we went in, she was at the kitchen washing dishes. So I picked up a towel and dried them. And then we went in the living room and I registered her.
He's a workaholic. He was totally dedicated his life to Johnson & Wales. He's a fatheraholic too, if there's such a word. He was my Cub Scout leader. He was my Sunday school teacher. He was my Boy Scout leader. He was my Little League coach. He was my Babe Ruth coach. And he spent huge amount of time with his kids, huge amount of time. We were all Eagle Scouts. Very rare to have 4 boys in the same family, Eagle Scouts. We all played third base for Barrington High School. We all quarterbacked for Barrington High School. We all had 13 years of perfect attendance at church. But we all lived through that regiment.
I would say that the greatest thing that I learned from him is integrity. He has a philosophy that if you do the right thing, you'll always come out okay. And if you do the wrong thing, that it'll eventually come back and hurt you. That's the message that just keeps coming back, coming back, coming back. So, and I've tried to impart that to my 2 kids because he's convinced me.
That was Dr. Gaebe. Work hard, play hard, get a good dividend.
Dr. Gaebe always had his eyes and ears open to what was going on, and in particular, he used to say, you know, people would ask him, what's Johnson & Wales going to be like 5 years from now? And he would say, I don't know, 5 years from now, wherever the jobs are, that's what Johnson & Wales will be doing. We're going to move fast, we're going to change, and we're going to mirror the marketplace. One day, Dr. David Friedman, who's a current trustee of Johnson & Wales, came in to Dr. Gaebe's office and told him about culinary education and how what was generally considered to be a domestic trade had become a profession, and the leisure time was going to change the world. People were going to eat away from home, big times. There were going to be big, big jobs. And as soon as Dr. Gaebe heard the word jobs, he went and did research on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and he believed it. And we went to the trustees with a recommendation to add culinary arts at Johnson & Wales, and the trustees turned us down. I'll never forget those days. The meeting went late into the evening, and one by one the trustees began to peel away and say, you know, this just doesn't make sense for a business school to be considering culinary arts. And Dr. Gaebe never got discouraged. We went back several months later with an improved presentation, answering all the questions and objections that the trustees had, and the rest is history.
It was 1973 that the big transition came from a business concept, which we were, to the food industry. And that was the shot in the arm that sent Johnson & Wales to the moon.
Remember whether it was Mose or Tribe, probably it was Mose, said in order for us to succeed, the student must come first.
And I will never forget leaving this building with Mo Gaebe, and we were going to a very important closing on purchasing of another building. And I wasn't supposed to do anything. It was so important. He had to do it all. And I was just going to listen. It was going to be learning exercise for me. We're walking out of this building right here, and there was a young lady sitting right where I'm sitting here. He noticed right away she was crying. He looked at her and said, "Are you a student?" She said, "Yes." He said to me, "Jack, you go take care of that issue. I'll go take care of this student." And he took her upstairs. And there is the example of Mo Gaebe modeling the behavior that students are important.
I think Johnson & Wales was a huge gamble. And I think he'd do it again tomorrow. He'd roll the dice with everything he has right now.
You know, we want to educate as many people as we can.
because education is to change people's lives. And if you're changing people's lives for the better, then you're doing something that you can feel good about.